Oh!
A large, strange device was discovered inside of this secret room in northern England in 2002.
It's a dildo! You see, some I don't know why I said that. But some people, some YouTubers would have probably edit that out and just restarted the whole video and said something else. But not me. It's off the wall. Like I said something just now off the wall, but it's like, it's not that off the wall. Like, you know what I mean? I ain't say, like, I didn't say, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna mute myself, but in the comment section below, whoever gets this right, I'm gonna shout you out. God, I hope I remember to mute myself. Okay, I didn't say nothing off the wall like. Okay. What I just said was off the wall type shit. Okay, you don't have to get like every word perfect, but if you can just get like the general area of what I just said muted, I'll shout you out if you want to shout out.
Today, I'm going to share the awful truth behind it. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please sneak into the Like Button's house the day before their wedding and replace their dress shoes with Crocs. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
Question about that. Crocs. Like the shoes. This is really clucked up, but I hope they didn't. I hope they don't ever do this. Excuse me, I farted. Has the brand Crocs ever made Crocs with real crocodile skin? Or made Crocs with the real animal Croc out of Crocs? That was weird. You know what I mean? Like, have they ever used the real animal, like the real crocodiles, to make Crocs? I hope they did not. I hope they did not.
All right, let's get into today's story.
Woodworking project.
At the end of 2002, 36-year-old Boyd Taylor was single, he had no children, and he lived with his divorced father, Robert, in a small bungalow in the northern England countryside. In addition to living with his father, Boyd also worked for his father. His father, Robert, owned a small construction business, and so the father-son duo built houses in the area. While Boyd might have envisioned his life turning out in a different, more exciting way, he didn't seem outwardly unhappy about his circumstances. In fact, he seemed very cheerful, both at work and when he was at home. But despite his cheerfulness, his father, Robert, was still pretty concerned about him, because every time Boyd had some time off from work and was just at loose ends, he wouldn't go out with his friends. In fact, he really didn't have any friends and wasn't even trying to make any friends. Instead, he would just sit in his room all day and be totally by himself. Now, Robert knew his son was naturally a bit of a loner and always had been, but a part of him hoped that his son would just start going out and meeting new people, or at the very least, develop some sort of hobby that could occupy his mind. In late September of 2002, Robert was walking down the hallway of their bungalow when he passed by his son's bedroom door, and it was shut, and as he walked past, he heard inside of his son's room the sound of his son sawing some wood. And so he stopped for a second and he just listened. And when the sawing stopped for a second, Robert just knocked on the door. He was curious. He wanted to know what his son was doing. Boyd, instead of coming over to the door and opening it up and talking to his dad, instead just paused for a second and then said, what is it, Dad? What do you need? And Robert would say, well, I heard sawing and I just wanted to know what you were building. And so Boyd pauses again and then just says, well, I'm working on a woodworking project. And so Robert's like, well, can I poke my head in and actually see what you're building? And Boyd, again, without opening the door, just tells his dad very politely that he wants to be left alone. And so,
nah, sus, watch yourself.
Robert decides not to push the issue. Whatever he was doing, it was his business. And so he just told his son that, hey, if you need any help with anything, let me know. I'd be glad to help. And then Robert walked away. Over the next 2 months, every time Boyd was not working, so in the evenings and on the weekends, he would be locked inside of his bedroom, hammering and sawing away at this woodworking project. And over those 2 months, Robert would periodically walk down the hall and stand in front of his son's bedroom and knock on the door and try to get his son to let him in to just see what he was up to, not only because he just wanted to see what his son was doing, but because Robert was a carpenter by trade and so was just genuinely interested. But every time he asked to be let in, Boyd would very politely tell his father that he really just wants to be left alone, and Robert respected his wishes. In early December...
At some point, Rob, that's your son. You the father. Break down that door and see what the cluck your son is up to. He on some cluck shit. I promise you, on mothers, he on some cluck sus shit. He is. And if he's not, well, he is. Because at some point, you gotta know before it's too late.
Approached his father and said, hey, would it be possible for me to take the next month off from work so I can focus on this woodworking project?
A month?
Now, for Robert, this was a massive inconvenience. This construction business that he owned was really just he and his son building the houses. And so if his son was not going to be working, then Robert would be solo on all of his projects for that month. But Robert's thinking to himself, my son has finally found a hobby that he's really into. I don't really know what it is, but clearly he's invested in it. And so he tells his son, you know what? That's fine. You take the whole month, and if you want more time in January, that's fine. You just let me know. So starting that first week in December...
Hey, son, you want that time off, right? Hold on. Ooh. You want that time off, right? All right. You want some more time off after that? Shit, you might, by all means. You take as much time as you want off. Yeah. All right. Great news. I just got one thing. Tell me what the cluck you building. What you making, son? Huh? What you making? Let me get a little peek. Now, let me get a little peek. Let me poke my head in. Pause. Let me poke my head in, man. Pause. What's up? What's up? What's up? Man? Come on, son. What you making in there? I need to call the police. Do I need to have my Adidas on? This is what I do. So the fact you're not showing me and I keep asking, it's not a good look. I'm going to cluck you up. What's up? I'm not going to do it again.
Every time Robert would leave the house to go to work in the morning, he would leave to the sound of Boyd in his bedroom hammering and sawing and tinkering away at his woodworking project. And then several hours later, when Robert finally came back home, he'd walk into the house and the first thing he would hear is his son still in his bedroom.
Hey, his son gotta come out sometime. His son gotta come out that room somehow, some way, sometime. And when he does, Rob, you haul ass in his room. I wonder what it is. Maybe it's a coffin. Or maybe he making something demonic. I don't know.
Still hammering and sawing away. When December finally ended and Robert expected his son to be done with his project and to finally show him what he's been working on, Boyd approached him and said, "Well, Dad, I'm not quite done with the project. I need about 2 more weeks." And so Robert said, "No problem, we'll talk in 2 weeks." So December rolled into January and Boyd just continued to work all day long inside of his bedroom. Then on the evening of January 7th, Robert was home. He was watching TV in the living room and Boyd was hard at work in his bedroom right down the hall when Robert decided he was tired and he was going to go to bed. So he stands up, turns the TV off, he leaves the living room, he goes down the hallway with his son's room on the right, and as he passed, he can hear his son at work and he kind of yells to his son that he's going to bed. And then Robert goes into his bedroom, crawls into his bed, and falls asleep.
I don't like this dad. I don't. I tell you what though, when I decide to have kids, I'm gonna give you 2 chances. I'm gonna ask you what you doing in your room. You don't say nothing, or you act like I just didn't say nothing, and I was clear as day. That's a pass. Second time I ask you, and you just ignore me, or you look at me as I'm asking what you doing in your room, and you still don't do nothing, you don't say nothing, I'm going in there. I'm your father. I got all kinds of say so over you. I'm going in your room. What you thought this was?
3:30 a.m. the following morning, Robert is suddenly awoken by this incredibly loud crashing sound somewhere in his house. Robert's first thought was the chimney must have collapsed. That was how loud the sound was. And so he leaps out of his bed, he runs out of his door, he goes down the hallway, past his son's room, into the living room, and he looks at the fireplace, which is in the TV room, and clearly the chimney has not collapsed onto itself. And so he's standing there thinking, what else could that sound have been? And then he's thinking to himself, well, did I really hear that sound, or was that sound in my dream? And I kind of thought it was real, but it really wasn't. And so just to be sure, he walked all around the house, kind of seeing if there were any signs of something big falling and crashing on the ground, but the house seemed totally in order. And so he walked back down the hallway towards his bedroom, and he stopped right outside of his son's room, and he considered knocking and waking his son up to see if maybe he had heard this loud sound too. But when he listened to the door, it was quiet inside, so he figured, you know what, my son's asleep, I'm not going to wake him up for this.
How you know that?
Robert just went into his bedroom and he went back to sleep. A few hours later, Robert got up and he left his bedroom, he went into the kitchen and he made himself some food. And as he's preparing his food, he's realizing that he doesn't hear the sound of Boyd working in his bedroom, because normally Boyd would be working that early in the morning, but he wasn't. And so right before Robert left to go to work that day, he actually walked down the hall and listened to his son's bedroom to hear if maybe he was at work in there, but he just hadn't heard him, but it was totally silent in the room. And so he reached down to the doorknob, thinking maybe he could just poke his head in and see if his son was on his bed, but when he tried the doorknob, it was locked.
Oh, we locking doors now. Hell no. Hell no. That's a big ass red flag. Your children locking the doors in your house?
Just thought to himself, okay, I guess Boyd is sleeping in this morning, and so I'm not going to bother him. And so Robert leaves the house, he gets into his truck, and he drives off to work. And then several hours later, he comes back to the house at night, and he walks inside, and the first thing he hears is nothing. it's silent. And this house in the evenings for the past several months was never quiet. Boyd was always hammering, sawing, and tinkering away at this woodworking project. And so right away, Robert's thinking to himself, maybe he's done with the project and I can finally see this thing he's been working on. And so
I have a feeling that you're not gonna be able to. When you see this shit, if you see it, it's either gonna scar you for life. Think about your son in a whole different way. Call the police, or run like hell, or you might find it. You might love it or something, or just agree with him and just like, what's the word? I don't know, like I don't know, just not agree with your son, but like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm lost at words. Be happy for him? I don't know.
Robert drops his stuff at the door and he walks down the hallway. He goes to his son's bedroom door and he knocks and he says, "Hey, Boyd, are you done with your project?" But he's met with silence. And so Robert reaches down again and tries the doorknob, but it's locked. And so Robert's standing there thinking, it's too early for him to be asleep. And so he yells out for Boyd, "Hey, what's going on? Where are you? I haven't seen you today. Come out here. Come talk to me." But again, it's silent. And so Robert's thinking, okay, well, when I pulled in, was his car in the driveway? And he can't remember. And so he leaves the house, he goes out to the driveway, and sure enough, there's Boyd's car. It's in the driveway, so he has to be here. And so suddenly, Robert's starting to feel a little bit panicked about his son. He runs back into the house, and he just starts screaming his son's name.
He's dead.
He goes room to room into the bathrooms and the other bedrooms to see if he's in there, but he's nowhere to be found.
He's dead.
And so operating on a gut instinct, Robert just runs right out to his car. He gets a sledgehammer, comes back in the house, goes down the hallway, and he's standing in front of his son's bedroom door. And one more time, he yells for his son and bangs on the door, tries to get his son's attention. But after once again there being total silence, he picks up his sledgehammer and begins breaking the door down. And after a couple of swings, he manages to pop off the locking mechanism, the actual doorknob. That gets blown off and he can push the door open and he sees inside the bedroom is empty. There's just a bed and a dresser and there's no Boyd. But in the back right corner of the room, where normally there was like this alcove, basically a segment of his room kind of jutted away from the rest of the space, almost like it was a closet, but with no door on it.
Oh,
Boyd
shit.
had clearly built a wall and door over that alcove, kind of creating a sort of sub-room within his bedroom. And this door was shut. And so Robert immediately runs over to this new second door. He tries the doorknob, it's locked. He yells for his son, but again, after silence, he picks the sledge up and begins trying to break this door down. And after a few good swings, like the first door, he was able to knock the doorknob off of the door. And then he reached down and he pulled the door open. And what he saw on the other side of this door, inside of this little sub-room, was so far from anything he ever expected that he just stood there in stunned silence. And then eventually reality kind of kicked back in and he ran out of his son's room and he called the police. 3 months earlier, Boyd had decided he wanted to build this very specific device that was invented in 1789. Now, he didn't want his father to know about this device, and so he built that door and wall frame in front of that alcove specifically so he could build this device inside of this new subroom in privacy. He also always made sure to lock his main bedroom door. So for 3 months, Boyd began constructing this 8-foot tall, 3-foot wide structure inside of the subroom. And once the shell of this device was constructed, he began installing all of its inner workings. These included things like various lengths of wire and clock timers and a jigsaw, which is like an electric saw. And then finally, on January 7th, it was complete. So that night, Boyd blew up an air mattress and he slid it inside of the subroom right underneath this ancient machine he had built. And then after that, he went and locked the main bedroom door. He went into the subroom himself and shut the subroom door and locked that. And then he pulled 12 sleeping pills out of his pocket, swallowed those, and then laid down on this air mattress on his back, looking up at the inner workings of this machine. And then once he was positioned the way he wanted to, he reached over up inside of this machine and he felt around for a button that he had placed. He pressed that button and then he put his hands over his chest and he laid there looking straight up until the sleeping pills kicked in and he fell asleep. That button he pressed right before he passed out from the sleeping pills started a timer, and when that timer went off, it would actually activate this whole device. And so several hours after pressing that button, the timer finally went off at 3:30 a.m. The first thing that happened when this device was activated is the jigsaw, the electric saw, began sawing this wire. Now the wire had been very intentionally placed against the teeth of this jigsaw, and so it's cutting this wire, and this wire is supporting this weighted down, heavy, angular blade that's pointing straight down. And so as soon as this wire is cut, it releases the blade, and the blade that almost looks like this oversized axe head begins falling straight down this chute. And the chute aims the blade directly onto the front of Boyd's throat. Boyd's woodworking project was a guillotine, and that loud crashing sound that woke Robert up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, shit! Oh my God! Yeah. That didn't, yeah, that definitely scarred him for life. Oh my God.
January 8th, that was the sound of the blade of this guillotine crashing down and decapitating his son. Even though Boyd did not leave behind a note explaining his actions, it was determined Boyd's death was in fact a suicide, a very complicated and deliberate suicide. Boyd's father and other people involved in this case have come to the conclusion that Boyd was clearly showing signs of depression.
Hey, was he gonna overdose or was he gonna die if the machine didn't work because of the pills? What did he take, like 12 pills of sleeping pills? Was he gonna die off of those alone?
Or he chose to take his own life. And so maybe if Boyd had reached out for help or if there had been some sort of intervention, his death could have been prevented. And if you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health, remember, you are not alone. No matter how bad it feels, there are resources out there that can help you. And so I've listed a number of them in the description below.
Is this the same number? The United States, the 1-800-273-8255 suicide hotline for the United States. Is that the same one that Logic used in that suicide song with Alyssa Carr and Khalid? I think it is. I don't know.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please sneak into the Like Button's house the day before their wedding and replace their dress shoes with Crocs. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like flannels and hats and sweatshirts. If you're interested, go to shopmrballen.com. If you want to learn about upcoming deals and promotions about our shop, go to our shop's Instagram page. The username is shopmrballen. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username for both platforms is the same. It's MrBallen. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is also MrBallen. We also have a second YouTube channel called MrBallen Shorts where we post random short videos and lost episodes. We also have a Facebook page just called MrBallen where we post condensed versions of the longer episodes you see on YouTube. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called MrBallen. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support. And until next time, that's going to do it. See you.
First of all, MrBallen, great video as always, right? But this topic that this video was on, this is a very sensitive topic, and I just want to talk general. I don't want to get into very specifics. Because this can turn into a whole different thing, and I don't not want it to be. But I think depression comes in all different shapes and sizes and forms. I know a few people that has dealt with depression and currently is going through depression. And there is help. There's people out there that can help you. But I'm getting emotional. Cause I know depression can be a motherfucker. I've never been depressed. Not that I know of. I've been through a lot of shit in my past, and I'm still going through some stuff. And I think one of the outlets for me is making YouTube videos. You know, even though I don't see you all physically, I see some of y'all, but like, even though I'm not able to like react with everyone and like see everybody's faces and hold you all, like touch you all, like all that stuff, even though I'm not able to be with you all physically, knowing that my videos help out people in countless of ways helps me. And that gets me through my day, and best believe I've been through some days, and I see comments that be like, your videos help me through like some dark times, or your videos help me through, through a breakup, or your videos make my day, or I'm just so happy you uploaded. Stuff like that just makes my day. Even though I may not say it or show it sometimes, but it does. But if you all need somebody to talk to because you're going through something, my DMs on Instagram is kind of like, you can message me. Like, I have a general, like for my DMs, I have a general, like I talk to people. But like, I do not receive, I think you still send me a message, but I don't get an alert or anything like that because I turned off my notifications. And the only way I can see if somebody DM me is if either I'm on Instagram and I see that notification, or I go to like a specific part in my DM where people have DM me and I can't. And I will have, that's only like, I don't know how to really explain it, but like my DMs is not open to everybody. You can also hit me up on Instagram, Twitter. I don't really use Snapchat like that. Or YouTube. Sorry. I'm tired. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I've been through a lot of shit. And making videos and entertaining people is my outlet. Let me know what is your outlet? So let me know that in the comment section below. Whether it's like drawing, whether it's like cooking, whether it's working out, whether it's running, whether it's YouTube or making YouTube videos, whether it's reading a book, listening to, also listening to music is also an outlet of mine too. But yeah, just let me know what helps you through your dark times and tough times. But yeah, no, there's always people to help you out. There's something or somebody to help you through your troubled, hard, rough, dark times. And it's not the end. It really isn't. Your life matters. Your life really does. And I love you. Anybody that's watching this video, if you come to this point of the video, just know that I love you. Some people go through things because they don't think people love them. And I'm here to tell you that I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being you Thank you for being alive. Thank you for watching my videos. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you. And I love you from the bottom of my heart. I just got really emotional, but yeah. If you don't think nobody loves you, just know I do. I really do. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy. My family. Got my eyes.